We're going to have a chat about contraception.
Yeah, I bought a football.
I'm actually sitting on the toilet. Some are so disturbing that they would be banned in like 70 countries. I'm still in my pyjamas because I'm off work today, so I can do what I want. I'm due my period in a week-ish. I thought we'd have a wee period chat because it's been a while. This video is going to be a whole mix of things just to kind of show how hormones affect me during my period. If you're not aware of my period content, years ago I started this series called A Week in the Life of a Period. Such an inventive title, I know. Where I literally just filmed a week in the life of my period, and it was to help stamp out the stigma surrounding menstruation. And I feel like the more we talk about these things, the more normal it'll be, the less embarrassing it'll be. And a lot of people still say to this day, there's no issue, there's no stigma at all. But then you always still hear people saying, no one needs to know, you don't need to talk about these things, no one needs to hear about your period, keep that to yourself. And it's like, well, which one is it? You know? We should talk about it, we should make it less embarrassing, because so many people still tell me that they hide the fact that they've got their period. They suffer in work. I know I do anyway. I get a day now where I just get so ill. But when you're in work, you have to act like you're fine. And so many people still tell me that they, you know, hide their tampon or their pad up their sleeve when they go to the toilet. Or, you know, they don't feel like they can openly talk about it, especially in front of men. And I know that a lot of men will say that they don't care, that they're happy for people to talk about their periods. But in a lot of people's experiences, that's not the case. So that's what these period videos are all about. It's about making it more normal to talk about periods. And I find the topic so fascinating. This video is already a shambles. That's another thing when I'm due as well. Like, I end up just winging videos and then I'm like, I should have planned this. I should have written out stuff to say because it's just absolute chaos. But then again, that's kind of what I like as well in videos. So that's what you're gonna get. I'm just in that mood, you know, I'm in that mood where I want to create. And I know for a fact it's because of my hormones, because of the time of the month. It's always at this time of the month that my brain's just like, right, light bulb, create, make stuff, talk all the time on Instagram, you know, make stories about stuff no one cares about, that kind of thing. I wasn't really feeling the week in the life of a period videos anymore. I felt like they were getting a bit unnatural. I felt like I had to do them every month, which obviously I didn't have to, but I just felt like every day was sort of similar. I didn't want to film in between shifts and then I had to film at night after work, and it was just the same thing all the time, and I didn't want that, so I felt like they were getting a bit repetitive. I stopped making them and I feel like they need a whole revamp. Something needs to be different about these videos. So I don't know if I should still make period content but not in that format and just scrap the week in the life and just move on from that, be like, I had fun with that, but now it's time to move on to something different and talk about periods in a different way. I don't know. But as I said, I find periods absolutely fascinating, and for me, one of the main parts that I'm interested in is the hormonal side, and that is mainly kind of what I'm going to be discussing in today's video. And I know that a lot of people really aren't affected that much by periods, or they experience small hormonal changes, like they might have a few days before their period where they're angry and irritable, PMS hits, whatever. But I feel sometimes that I just have such a huge change in my emotions, and because, oh man, I have noticed such a difference in the last few days that it's so apparent that I'm due, and you just feel when you're due. It's so hard to explain, especially for people that don't have periods, but people with periods will know how you just know you're due. Sometimes you don't know exactly when it's going to be, because a lot of people don't track their periods, but you just feel it in your body, you know, that you're due. So let's explore that a little bit more. So a little bit more about my period and my experience with my period, and you can let me know if you relate to any of this. I'm actually sitting on the toilet because, let's be honest, that's where I spend most of my time on my period. Normally 10 days to a week before my period. Right now, that's when I start feeling a big difference. I start getting excitable, enthusiastic, my brain's going 100 miles a minute. I'm constantly thinking about all different things all the time. I've got so much I want to do and create. Right now, it changes all the time, but right now, my main thing that I want to do, apart from this YouTube video about the house, a bit weird, is writing short horror stories. And before, like during my different periods, like there's been times where I wanted to write a book about a Scottish road trip, which I still do, and like a bunch of other like UFO stories and stuff. But now it's a book of short horror stories. that's where my mind is gone. And do you know, I haven't even started writing it because I can't. Like, I can't focus myself. I can't make myself focus and sit down and just start writing it, because as soon as I start doing that, I'll start reading a book, and then during reading my book I'll start researching something online, and then while doing that I'll start doing something else, and it's like I cannot function. And I tried to sit and read my book yesterday and I just couldn't concentrate because I had so many ideas in my head. And this, for me, is the best time for me to create, because that's all my brain wants to do, and I have so many ideas and I write them all down. It's just bizarre because I'm not normally like that. And then I normally find myself as well posting more on social media. I do Instagram stories where I'm like talking to the camera, and I don't do that most of the time. And I feel like I write bigger captions on Instagram, just wee things like that. I just want to share more, and I want to talk more, and I want to connect with people more. It's very bizarre. I mean, this part of my period is why I joined uni again 2 years ago, oh my god. Because I just all of a sudden was like, I want to start studying again, let's start. And then I joined uni and I was like, that was pretty spontaneous. And I have this like major burst of spontaneity all the time, or like, not spontaneity, what's the word? Not erratic, but like you do, oh, what's the word? Impulsive. Oh my god. That's the main difference I notice when I'm during my period. I'm so impulsive sometimes that when my period's done, I'm like, why did I do that? What was I thinking? But I actually really like it. I like the creative side, I like the impulsive side, I like a bit of spontaneity. I wish I was like this all the time. Once I get my period, I'm a bit more clear-headed and relaxed. And I normally beforehand have one day where everything's irritating me, and you know that you get that like red hot anger, or sometimes like you look at a bunch of happy children in the street and you'll just start crying. Yep. And a lot of times I'm more emotional, but in a good way. I don't normally get like upset or angry and things like that, and I quite like that. When I've got my period, nowadays it's so on the ball. I'm very regular now, and I'm not on any contraception or anything just now. That's a whole other, let's talk about that in a wee minute. My periods normally last about 10 days, which sucks. All you people that have periods for 3 days, the first day is normally a little trickle. Occasionally it'll be like, I call it the shining moment, and a lot of people in my past videos don't know what I'm talking about. But you know that lift scene or the elevator scene in The Shining where all the blood comes out and goes across the hotel? That's the shining moment. So you know when you just sometimes, you just feel it, you either stand up and you're like, oh, or you just go to the toilet and there's a massacre. That is the shining moment. So sometimes it'll start with that, sometimes usually that's like my second or third day, and it's hellish and I get really bad cramps and I'm just miserable. I feel dizzy sometimes and a bit sick, but it's only for one day each time, so that's quite good. And then I have 2 days of really heavy period, and then it'll just start going away slowly, and then I stop noticing it that much. I just deal with it, and that's it for the rest of the 10 days, and then it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. The last few days normally it's barely there, but it is there, so you still need to wear a pad, or, you know. That's my period in a nutshell. And then it's fine for a bit, and then ovulation hits. And I know that this is a little bit taboo to talk about, but when you're ovulating you get this stringy discharge, the clear discharge, that drives me nuts. A lot of times I wear a little panty liner because sometimes you just feel like you've wet yourself and it's not pleasant. So it doesn't, people think that periods are just, you know, it's just the one thing, you deal with it for 7 days and that's you, but that's not the case. You deal with a period constantly. You're constantly, like my cycle's 28 days, so 28 days out of a month you're dealing with all different things, and it's not easy, I'm telling you. Yeah, and then once that's over you're sort of back to square one again, and it just starts all over again. It's wild. Periods are wild. Tell me about your period. What's the one thing that you notice about your period that's just like, what is going on? Like, do you have the enthusiasm and all that stuff that I get, like the creative thing beforehand, or not? Yeah, I'm dying to write a short horror story and I don't know where to start, because I just can't start. It drives me nuts. So speaking of horror, I absolutely love horror, as you can tell from my Freddy Krueger glove that hangs on my door. I just love it, but I don't like jump scares, and I want to create something that's like creepy. And I was thinking a series of short horror stories. I would love to write a book of short horror stories, and my brain was going to Scottish horror stories because that's kind of on brand. But then I was also thinking of other things. I have all these dreams sometimes, right? Scary dreams that they're horrendous nightmares, but I wake up and I'm like, that would make a good horror film. And some are so disturbing that they would be banned in like 70 countries, but they're also so good, and I'm trying to work out how to incorporate this like one scene from each dream into a story. It's so difficult. I'm like, how do you create one scene into a story? Writers, help me out. So that's where my brain goes a lot of times when I'm on my period. I end up just dying to create stuff, and I wish that this energy was put into YouTube videos. I guess it is today, but on a normal day-to-day basis, I'm like, I wish I could just write, but my brain can't do all of the things. It's just not happening. So I actually ordered impulsively last night a book of short horror stories by Shirley, I was going to say Shirley Temple, not her. Not Shirley Bassey. What's that? She did Haunting a Hill House. Jackson. Oh my god. Shirley Jackson. I bought her book of short stories. I've got a Clive Barker thing up there. I'm going to sit and read a bunch of different... I've got a Stephen King one, The Night Shift, sitting open on my computer to read. So yeah, for me the creative side of my being comes out during or before my period. But also other things, like I get random urges to do things, and that's where we're going in the next clip. Let's go. This is ridiculous.
Hey. Here's the deal. I got this urge to play football. My voice is muffled because I'm wearing a mask, but I bought it from Argos and then I realised that it comes deflated, so then I had to buy a pump. So I spent like a tenner on a football and a pump. It was ridiculous, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I bought a football. I got this like overwhelming urge. It was my birthday at the weekend and I had this overwhelming urge to play football. Not play football, just kick a ball about. Quite enjoy that. Haven't done it in years. But I didn't have a ball, so I bought one. I'm just going to show off my mad skills just now. I don't want anyone to be too jealous, but if any football teams want to take me on, then my email's in the description. Don't be too intimidated, okay? It seems that the ball actually just needs blown up a little bit more. It's not quite exactly how I would want it, so once it's blown up I'll be able to show off exactly how good I am at football. When I went to get my ball I was feeling fancy and I went to Marks and I got these tomato and mozzarella pastries. I'm making a coffee kettle. Why did I decide to film when the kettle's boiling? Today I'm going to have these for my lunch. Oh, and I also got one of these. I got a mojito can from M&S as well, and it has 2 measures of white rum in it, and these are lethal, but I thought I'd buy one because I thought I'd treat myself because I'm off work. So I read a really good period book a while back called Period Power by Maisie Hill, and I saw this one and some of the reviews I saw were a bit kind of like, they said it was really informative, but a lot of people said it was quite woo. Like it was a bit spiritual a bit too spiritual for them, and a bit too sort of like stuff about the universe and all that. But I quite like that stuff, and I think it's because a lot of times when I'm due my period or when I'm on my period, I feel more connected to things around me. I don't know if that's just me, or it would be. I hate when people say that. Oh, is it just me? Or no, it's not just you. It would never be just you. Anyway, it is very informative, and it splits your period into seasons, and it was good to read about all the different hormones and how each hormone affects you at different points and what it does and stuff like that, and I would recommend it. There's a bit that I really related to in the book. When I get my period, I just feel a bit more normal. There was a time, maybe like, I can't remember when it was probably during the first lockdown. I really was struggling with my period and it was making me feel really low, and now I very rarely get that. I've started eating healthier, and I think that that's got a lot to do with it because I feel like everything's related. I definitely did notice a difference in that aspect, so I don't really get like low anymore, just occasionally, but this used to be all the time, but now it's much better. During that time when I got my period, that's when I'd started feeling normal, and that's when I'd noticed that a cloud had lifted and I wasn't low anymore, and this was when I got my period. So usually you think it would be the other way around, like when you've got your period you're like rah! But it's not always the case. It's sometimes like round about that with the hormones and stuff. So yeah, I found myself to be feeling pretty normal during my period, and I was like, god, this is how I want to feel all the time. I was happy, I was like, and I still do feel like that as well, but I do have that one day where I'm just not well, and it does vary all the time. Like each period isn't exactly the same, so like next month I might be feeling a bit crap, or I might not feel normal on my period. It does vary, but I just was finding that quite often. The first day of your period is your winter, and then it says here like all the different ways that people normally feel when they're in each stage of their period, and I just wasn't relating to it. And I was like, why am I not relating to this? Why am I different? Because as I said, when I got my period, which is supposed to be my winter, that's when I felt normal, and that's when I felt clear-headed and level-headed. It talks in here about this girl, right, who she started tracking her cycle like I did. I forgot to mention that I was tracking my cycle for a while, and I was writing down how I feel every day, but I stopped doing that. She quickly realised that her summer was short-lived, and it lasted from like day 11 to day 14, at which point her mood would plummet and she would feel really low. Day 18 to 23 she would feel anxious and irritable. From day 24 to 26 she'd feel really teary and sad. But once her period started, she would be crying with relief because she felt like herself again. It says here she got in touch with the woman that wrote the book to share what she'd collected and stuff, and she told me she was wondering if she had PMDD. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. I know a couple of people that have it, and it's like when they experience symptoms so much more extreme. This woman went to her GP, and the GP decided that she met the criteria for PMDD. The GP gave her citalopram, which is an antidepressant. She could take that through her luteal phase. Your luteal phase is the period, not period, but like the stage phase after ovulation. This woman also went to a nutritionist, and the nutritionist recommended that she start taking magnesium, and then that balanced with exercise would help her symptoms of PMDD. She found that the citalopram helped an awful lot, which put her in the headspace to then exercise, and she tried yoga and she got on really well with yoga. She really enjoyed that. She started lessening the amount of citalopram that she took, and then without the citalopram she found that she still got mood swings and she still felt anxious, but it wasn't as bad as it was before. I've often thought myself, like, do I have PMDD? I don't know, because sometimes I don't feel that bad and sometimes I do, but I notice that it's always when I get my period that I feel better. But right now, as I said, right now I feel really good, and I'm, you know, in the stage before my period, so who knows. But yeah, I found that all really interesting. Obviously, changing diet and things like that is not going to be a cure for everyone, and I'm just talking about what worked for me. I did feel like it helped a lot, and also I started taking magnesium as well, and I feel like that's helped quite a bit. But obviously everyone's different. Like for that woman, antidepressants worked. Who knows? So you always do need to talk to your doctor about these sorts of things. Says me that hasn't been to a doctor, but I do feel a lot better now. So, and also talking about period books, so someone I've followed online for years, Tara Costello, she is like one of the first people that I ended up speaking to online about periods and stuff. And when I first started doing my period content, me and her always spoke about it. And she's written a book. Like, how exciting is that? It's called Red Moon Gang, An Inclusive Guide to Periods. And it's such a pretty book. Look at that. And it looks, I've not read it yet, but it looks so informative. I'm so excited. This will be one of those books that I feel like people in school should be reading. Like, this should be part of the curriculum. I've not even read it, but I already know it's going to be amazing. And this is just interesting if you're into the more spiritual side of things. Let's change positions. I was about to film and I got a wee delivery. I got this Topshop cardigan from Depop. Look, I'm a fashion blogger now. It's been washed, I can smell the soap powder. I've stopped buying like fast fashion, and I try and get everything second hand. It's not bad, is it? Not bad. Wee Kerty. Oh, I quite like that. I totally forgot that we were going to have a chat about contraception. I think I could make a full video about contraception, but right now I'm not on anything because I kind of wanted my body to get back to the normal, what it was like before, kind of natural way to see what it was like. Because see, in high school, right, see when I was a teenager and I started getting periods, they were horrendous. Like, it was like something out of a horror film. It was like the Shining moment constantly. I would be in school, I would be thrown up out of both ends. I would have the heaviest period, cramps to the point I couldn't walk properly. I always had to go home. That'll be my book. I shat myself there. I have this like memory of running out of my science class, go to the toilet, which was underneath the science class, and just thrown up. And then my friend said, the teacher went, can you go and check on Erin, because apparently the whole class could hear me spewing. It was a mess. Like, I was sitting on the toilet because I had diarrhea, but I was also spewing. It was horrendous. Then my friend comes down and she's like, you alright, Erin? I was like, no. I had to go home because I was such a mess. But that kept happening every month, so I went to the doctor. I think I was 15, 14, and she put me on the pill for my periods, and I couldn't tell you a creek and a half. I couldn't tell you the amount of pills I've been on. I think I've tried about 5 or so. My camera stopped there, but I've been on different forms of the pill. The first time I went on the pill, it just made me really depressed. Another pill that I was on, it made me, my mood swings were nuts. So I came off that because I was so up and down all the time. And then all the other ones I've tried as well, it just didn't make me feel good. So I came off the pill. I was on the pill for years. And then I decided I needed something, so I went on I got the implant. You can see my wee scar somewhere there. You can see my implant scar. My friend got the implant at the same time, and her periods stopped, and I had a constant period for about 4 months, 6 months, can't remember. So I got it taken out because I was like, nah. So then after the implant, I was going to get the coil, an IUD, not the copper one. And then lockdown hit and my appointment got cancelled, and I took that as a sign. Now I'm quite enjoying like getting to know my body and getting to know my periods a bit more. I find that quite interesting, but it was the whole hormonal side of things that was driving me mad, and that's why I wanted to go on the coil, because I felt depressed and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to solve this. And then yeah, now that I've just started eating better, I feel a lot better. Hold on, let's go and see if my book arrived. 2 seconds. It was my book. Look how pretty Look how pretty it is. Look how pretty it is. Penguin Modern Classics always looks so good. One of the most famous short stories of the 20th century, and surely one of the most wicked of any. I'm excited to read this. Get some inspiration from Shirley. I might end this video here because it's quite chatty and quite long. If I think of anything else that I want to film about period wise, then I'll do it. But I think that you should let me know your experience down below of your periods and hormones, etc. And also what kind of period content you'd like to see. Let me know. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I also have a Patreon page if you're interested in getting involved with that. Thanks. I'll catch you on it. I'm very active over on Twitter and Instagram if you're interested in that. So yeah, bye.